Okay, so this is another video in a series of videos of using Map Window GIS, particularly in mapping of farms and using a manure management planner also as part of the ingredients here. And we'll do several videos related to here. Hopefully you've already seen the video of how to install Map Window GIS, otherwise that's out there also. In this one we're going to actually show you how to get a farm map into a Map Window GIS and start mapping out your fields. So the first step, once you've opened Map Window GIS, is go to MMP Tools, and when you click on MMP Tools, what will happen is you'll get another menu that'll come down, and it'll say all these things you can do. The Clipper web app is what we're going to start with, and we're going to get base layers for a new project. When you do that, that will open up your web browser to this site, which is a Missouri Clipper, which they've worked with this web mapper, and you'll select your state, and obviously we're in Iowa, so here I'm going to pick Iowa, and then I'm going to go to my zip code, sometimes easiest, and it's kind of a pain to scroll through them all, but you get down there, and I'm going to pause while I do this. There's a lot of zip codes. You go through all of them in your state, and eventually you'll find the one where you're located, and we happen here, we look at 52132, so then we click Make Map, and then that will open up this area. And with this now, I can see Calmer, Iowa, where the college here is located at that we're going to be mapping out. But I want to zoom into there, so I'm going to kind of pull it to the center of the map, and then I'm just going to click plus and zoom in to find the farm that I want to map. Now, I don't actually have to draw out the entire boundary of the farm. I just want to make sure I get all of it clipped. So I'm just going to clip out everything underlined here. So what I'm going to come up here is Define Area. When I click on Define Area, then I can hold my left mouse button and I can draw a box around the farm that I want to get information from. And then I'll let go of that, and I can give it a name, or you don't really need to if you don't want to, but you can call it your project or my farm or whatever you want to call it. Whoops, sorry about that. Or put your name on there so you can distinguish it as your particular farm or the name of the farm, and then click submit. And what that will do is it will clip out everything underneath that box and get that ready for us to download. I'll pause while this is working. So it may take a minute or so for that to work, and eventually this will jump up, and this means they've clipped it out and it's ready to go, and you can see a picture of your farm there as we look at it. And all we got to do now is click on Download File. And when you click on that, it's going to save it. You don't want to open it, you just want to save it because it's a zipped file, which is the way we exchange a lot of things over the internet. And it can bring that zipped file right into your Map Window GIS. So you find a place to save it. I'm just saving it in temporary stuff right now as I do this demonstration. But create a folder for your project here where you can save this, because there's other things you may want out of this thing later as you work with it. Okay, so then next step after I saved it is go into Map Window GIS, and we're going to come up to GIS MME Tools again, and we're going to go to New Farm Project from a Clipper zip file, okay, which is what we just downloaded, and then we're going to browse to find that, and like I said, this is where I saved it, and it recognizes that zip file. I don't want to open it or anything, just leave it as a zip file. Click Open now. Now we're going to open it. Now we're going to put it in a place where, and again, I'm just going to put in temporary stuff. And you can call it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it My Farm again. I'm going to click Save, and it's going to add a folder to that temporary folder. Again, hopefully you've created a folder just for this project as you're working with it, and you're putting everything in there. And you see what it brings in. It brought in several different things there as we're looking at it. First thing came in with a topographic map, and then came in the aerial photo, and then the soil survey map as we looked at it. And mine happens to be in a preview mode right now down the bottom left. I want to go over to the legend here on the bottom left and click on that, and that'll show you what it actually brought in. So here's my photo. If I turn on the topo map, that's on top of there. You can see that. I'll turn that back off. Turn on watershed. I'm not going to worry about that. We're not going to do anything with the watershed, at least in this demonstration. So I'll leave that off. And here's my soils. I can turn that on and off too. So I'm going to turn the soils off right now because it just kind of messes up the map. I need them. They're good information. They're still in the map. I'm just not showing them as we look at them here. So the other thing you'll notice over here in the table of contents is there is setbacks in the fields. Now setbacks are basically buffer zones, and I'm not going to work with those at least in this video. The next video I'll talk about the setbacks and buffer zones. But we do want to draw our fields in. So that's our first step. So I make sure it's highlighted. So in other words, make sure you've selected the fields, and then we come up here and click plus shape. But before that, I'm going to zoom in to my area. My zoom button is selected right here, and if I just again draw a box, and we'll just do the northern part of the farm here, it zooms into the size of that box. And I've got this one little field kind of by itself here, so I'm going to first draw in that field. So I'm going to come up here to plus shape, and I'm just going to click with my mouse around that field. And essentially I'm anchoring fence posts is one way to look at it, and every time I click, it puts another fence post in the ground to put that fence around that field, and every dot is a fence post or a pixel. Then when I get done, this straight line there to the end, I'm going to right click, and it's going to be finished, and I'm just going to call my field 1. Don't worry about the subfield at this point. We're just going to keep it as one field and click OK, and that will set up that field. And mine wasn't perfectly right again, but I put in the acres in the field. Probably should have came down here a little bit more, but for demonstration purpose, I'm going to be happy with that. Next thing I want to do is zoom out just a little bit, and a couple ways of zooming. I could actually click on this button, and if it's working, my computer's a little bit slow this morning. Whoops. Come down to full extent. That takes me out to the whole area. Or I can click on this button here and zoom to layer. I right clicked on it. So a couple different ways I can zoom around, or I can right click and zoom to this layer to see the whole photo. Make sure you go back and select fields if you happen to do that. So then I'm going to just zoom in button again, and I'm going to come over here to the west side of the farm, and on this farm, that area back over there has pretty much been managed as one field nowadays. So I'm going to select a whole area here. Actually, if I'm going to get detailed here, I should probably keep that's a field, there, a field, there, a field, there, a field. But so we don't have too much busy work here with the college farm. We're going to group some things together. So the next field I'm going to draw in, I'll just pause while I do that. Okay, so you'll notice I drew that field in. Again, for practice purposes, it's one big field. We can subdivide this field later, particularly if we're doing some zone sampling and open zones. But for now, one big field there. My next big field is probably going to be over here, but they're going to share the same boundary. So I'm going to do this thing just a little bit different this time. So I'll make sure field is highlighted, click on plus shape, and then I'm going to start like way inside of this field here as I add my shape. Whoops. Sorry about that. Let me pause this for a second. Try that again. So click there, inside there, and then I'm going to come down in this corner, click over here, and follow this little boundary along here. Again, same as I did before, just clicking, adding in all these points for the boundary of that field. There's kind of waterway here where we're going to separate this field out. And then follow this road along here. Click in there, and then I'm going to click way in here again, and then right click. And when I do that, what you'll find out here, we'll call this field 3, is it'll actually collect these two fields together, and it drew its own boundary between them. So I didn't have to worry about following the boundary. Plus, it made a much cleaner map. I didn't have two boundaries in here. So just got to make sure you click well in there that these two dots, there's nothing in between them, and it'll connect and just clip out that area. So I'm going to go ahead and draw in the rest of the fields. Again, whenever I can, I'm going to use that inside that boundary deal. Take care of that, and I'll show you how the map is done as soon as I get started up here again. So when I get all done, essentially I have got 8 fields out there. All my fields are lined up, and that's essentially all I'm going to do with this video. Hopefully you found this fairly easy to work with. When you're done, just make sure you save it. Obviously, don't do a save as, just do a save. That way it'll save the project with all that stuff in there. So that'll conclude this video. In the next video I'll show how to actually do in some conservation practices and some distance to waterways and some other tools that we have in the memory toolbox. So thank you for watching.